Energy equals Michael times CC. Since we all became of this universe, should we not ask who we are, whence we came? Insight clefts the night with its radiance. The theory of everything shines through. Michael had dedicated his life to assisting the less fortunate and giving love to all, as well as to the quest of the Holy Grail of the Toe. Being one of the glorious few of the Knights of the Round Table of Toe Quest, those who look beyond, above, below, and within the everyday, into the very life and source of the magic of existence. He'd heard, with some alarm, of the narrow escapes of his fellow Toe Questers, and was almost worried. Since we all became of this universe, should we not ask who we are, whence we came? Michael was well aware that his nearly real name and picture appeared on his every post. The picture was small, but the name could be deduced, and so the new MI8 group had done so, locating his residence. However, Michael awaited them in his lounge chair, having a trick up his sleeve that he couldn't wait to pull on them. So there he was, posting away to 100 different threads when they arrived and surrounded him on 20 sides.
Please come with us peacefully. There is no escape. We have guards on all the exits and on all the entrances.
I am Numena.
Michael smiled and simply said, "I am Numena," as he turned into pure energy, a state that could not be maintained for more than a few seconds, but time enough for him to zoom away at near the speed of light. He'd been practicing this, and it was always quite exhilarating, although he couldn't sense as well during it. It had a refractory time of a few days whereupon he could perform it again just by thinking energized. Anyway, he disappeared from right in front of their eyes and took off, easily passing through buildings, trees, and mountains, and going around the world about 14 times before he materialized, of all places, next to the Queen of England in her bed at 1 a.m. Michael made a vow to replace his TR3 with a Porsche, while preparing to fix the flat tire by the side of the narrow road in his spotless white sports suit. Michael took the spare tire out of the trunk, carefully trying not to let it touch his pristine white leisure suit as he juggled it over to the wheel. He jacked up the car and removed the flat tire. He swore at his car when he got a smudge on his pants from the old tire. It was then that he saw her driving by, a bright vision from heaven come to answer his dreams. He could hardly believe what he saw. She was driving a yellow Testarossa, breaking the speed limit and hitting at least 125 mph, almost blowing him off the shoulder of the road. S1. Dang nabbit.
Darn, now my white suit had become a dusty gray. She's the one, that's her. Forget everything for a while, she's the one, that's the woman for me.
He got a good look at her, though, since she had her top down. Her hair and scarf trailed out behind her as she sped away along the hilly road. Her license plate just read, Trish. He could hardly contain himself, and he even stopped thinking about the theory of everything for a while. As he drove into the parking lot, she was already walking out with a hamburger in her hand. Michael, always quick thinking, walked right up to her and spoke directly. That's her type of food. I once ate slow food escargot. He quickly twisted the lug nuts back on the wheel, jumped into his car, and raced after her. Unfortunately, his old TR3 could only muster 85 mph on the switchback upgrades. A bit of smoke poured from his engine, suggesting he was burning oil and would never catch her. Then, luck smiled on him as he spotted her car parked outside a fast food restaurant. She handed him the remains of her French fries and quickly roared off in her new Testarossa, the wheels spinning and spitting dirt onto Michael, turning his now gray suit to a dark brown color. Her antics only convinced him all the more that she was the girl for him. She was rich, daring, confident, attractive, sexy, and so full of energy. Plus, she had a ready wit and was good-looking too. She had long hair, a body that was alive, and erotic, exotic features. Her eyes had looked straight into him. She was more than fine. She just oozed with charm, personality, and sex appeal. Michael stood there, dazed for a moment, still talking to the air she'd just vacated. Already he could see her car speeding along the road below, her radio music blaring some music that sang, "Wild and free, that's what I want to be." She looked up and gave him a wave, urging him on, and this shook him out of his trance. He even managed to wave back, although he felt like a frozen statue and could hardly lift his arm. Meanwhile, unbeknownst to Michael, 18 blue Mi-8 sedans had located him and were hot on his trail, although still some miles back. Michael ran to his car and raced down the hillside after her, going faster and ever faster, even running off onto the shoulder several times, and then almost going off the side of the road. The curves were real tricky, and so he had to assist the car's braking by downshifting into second gear, sometimes even into first. He couldn't keep up with her, of course, but at least he could still see her now and then down the other side. He was pushing his car to its limit and loving every minute of it. Oh, the thrill of it, and for good reason too. Love. This was not just simple speeding, it was speeding for a purpose. Speeding as if his life depended on it, or at least his love life. Michael immediately became enamored of the exhilaration of the chase, as the stress and excitement caused adrenaline and natural opiates to be loosened in his overworked, toe-questing brain. He took a chance, passing a slow-moving truck in the no-passing lane, and was just barely able to tuck back in time.
Okay, Michael, I'll make a deal with you, one that we'll both enjoy. If you can keep up with me throughout the day, then you can have me tonight, and get that suit cleaned.
Trish, my name is Michael, and I'm on my way up in the world of Thing. I am falling in love with you and your style, so I would like to take you out tonight and get to know you very well.
As he neared the meadow, he heard some great whooshing sounds that were familiar but couldn't quite be placed. Rainbow colors could be seen through the trees. What was all this? And then he understood. Of course, hot air balloons. The balloons were ready for launch, their baskets peopled, their ropes even now being untied from the stakes. This was not so good news. Soon the sky would fill with all these balloons and he'd never find her. He was in a frenzy. He cleared his mind and calmly but quickly looked for her car. Ah, there it was, next to a balloon that was colored bright red and yellow.
Hurry up, Michael, she said as her balloon began to lift off, its rope still dragging on the ground past him. Come with me to the Emerald City.
Just then, the basket left the ground. Michael grabbed onto the rope and ran with it for a while, thinking crazily that he could somehow climb up it. There was only one problem. He was afraid of heights. Nevertheless, love conquered fear, and so he held onto the rope as it gently lifted him off of the ground. He soon had second thoughts, however, and panicked, realizing that he was almost getting too high to let go. He looked down and saw a barnyard filled with soft hay, and so, giving up the stunt as hopeless, let go of the rope and fell a short and harmless distance to the ground, but missed the hay, landing smack in the middle of the pig's feeding area. His once white suit was now as black as coal in the nothing of a void at night with no moon.
Now this is a car, he thought as he began to put it through its paces. Why, I feel like I am a part of it, he marveled, as it held the corners due to its low center of gravity and its wide, stable body. The greatest part of driving it was seeing the other cars on the road give way to him, all figuring him to be ultra-rich and of course not wanting to take a chance of bumping him and scratching a $200,000 car. So this is what it feels like to be a millionaire,
said another Ninja cell phone caller, S2, faster MK.
Stop bothering me, I don't want to buy a new condo.
However, Michael did heartily take note of the now 24 sedans following him, although they were a ways back, and put the pedal through the heavy metal of the radio. He drove on for another 10 minutes or so, tracking her every move, sometimes finding her in the sky miles away. Yes, he was a driven man. He entered a tunnel, then soon panicked, not having his lights on, and not instantly knowing where they were, but he smartly remembered where the headlight button was and flicked them on. When he finally emerged from the darkness, the scene he saw was like a beautiful dream. It was as if he was seeing the world for the first time, for the English countryside was beautiful, bright, and bold beyond compare. He felt as a part of its every color, texture, and hue. Then he smiled to himself and thought, "Well, Michael, welcome to the land of Oz." Trish was dropping altitude now, and descending rapidly. He lost her for a while, having had to race through a dense grove of trees that bordered close to the road. But when he came around a curve with a brief open view, there she was, softly landing in the center of a large estate, where there was a sizable stone mansion built in the European tradition. She leaped out of the balloon and ran for the garden. Michael watched as Trish disappeared into the ornamental grounds that surrounded the mansion. Her hot air balloon was gently and gracefully collapsing, slowly covering the ground around him. For some reason, he thought of ToeQuest, and he had to fight hard to get it out of his mind.
This is going to be a good weekend of forgetting everything,
He thought, as the balloon's fabric fell onto him, waking him from his reverie of dilemma. Looking around, he took in the richness of the estate and couldn't help but translate it in his mind to a dollar figure. The grounds were perfectly terraced and landscaped. The mansion itself was made of pure marble, with stone and slate at the base. The world of nobility was just sitting there waiting for him to become a part of it. The whole place was more than magnificent, but something was not quite right. The grounds were empty. There were no security guards, no groundskeepers, and no servants. In fact, there were no signs of any life whatsoever. It seemed to be some sort of fortress of solitude, and this theory was confirmed when Michael heard a zap and a buzz. He quickly turned around to see the heat shimmering near an electric security fence that had just snapped on behind him. Briefly alarmed, he wondered whether he felt saved or trapped.
Just what side of the fence was the enemy on? Could it be that Trish was some sort of emotional nutcase?
He soon relaxed, though, as he felt a wave of reassurance coming over him, for the force field could only mean that they were meant to be romantically alone and safe from intrusion. It also neatly explained the absence of the security guards, for none were needed. Michael swung into action, for this was his middle name, a secret that even MI8 didn't know. As he ran toward the garden, he noted that what he thought to be grass had actually turned out to be a ground cover that he knew to be self-spreading, maintenance-free, and dense enough to keep out the weeds, thus explaining the absence of any groundskeepers. This was indeed a very modern estate.
Things were becoming clear to my finely tuned mind. Trish was some sort of a rich hermit or something.
The garden turned out to be a maze of high hedges, a popular European diversion. Michael was not very happy to see it, even though it was a work of art, because he had thought to have an easy conclusion to the day's quest. He attacked the maze rather recklessly, and just as quickly lost his way. He was soon totally disoriented, and began to feel more and more like a trapped animal. Michael peered through a small opening between the bushes and was just able to catch a glimpse of Trish heading down to a large lake behind the mansion. She walked out on a pier towards a powerboat, then looked back and saw that he was nowhere in sight, so she, apparently, sat down near the boat to wait for him.
She was an Indianapolis speed racer who was going to burn out her engine and probably not even finish the event. For a brief moment I wished for some station wagon-like stability. But boy, what an autobiography I could write. I could sense that Trish had even more adventures in mind, and this weighed on me slightly, making me bold enough to throw myself through the small gap in the hedges to surprise her, getting a number of minor scratches and scrapes in the process. Cool it, you're losing it. Let her have her fun for now.
Sure enough, as soon as she saw him coming, she jumped straight into the motorboat and started the engine, all the time urging him on with the chase.
Hurry up, Michael, come quick, run, Michael, run. See, Michael, run, come to me, Michael, take the rope.
For a split second, Michael began to wonder why he was always chasing after ropes, and why he should jump into a lake just because she told him to do so. Nevertheless, he hurriedly removed his socks and shoes and quickly jumped into the lake. She slowed the boat, coming almost near him, and smiled for a moment at his spirited self, encouraging him. She threw him the ski rope. He grabbed for it, just managing to get the rope handle as she threw the throttle forward to full power. He plowed through the lake like an anchor. She dragged him along, half in and half out of the water. Somehow he got onto his feet and found himself water skiing barefoot. He was so amazed at the impossibility of this feat that he just as quickly collapsed into the water, rolling and tumbling forward, sort of like a stone that had been thrown, skipping and skimming. Leaving him there floundering, flailing and drowning, Trish headed straight back towards the shore, but at least she had the decency to throw him a life preserver. Michael began to wonder if Trish was worth it, but he soon painfully remembered that he thrived on life and love's adventure, although he wasn't so sure anymore.
He remembered her challenge, If you can keep up with me today, then you can have me tonight.
This seemed to give him some extra energy that soon built into the super strength that allowed him to swim to shore, whereupon he promptly fell down, exhausted, and passed out.
He awoke later at first believing that he'd dreamt a nightmare, but harsh reality smacked him in the face when he saw Trish waiting for him in front of the flower garden.
He pretended to be still asleep, and so when she looked away for a second, he leapt up and ran, getting to within 10 feet of her before she spotted him and bolted towards the garden.
Wait till I get my hands on you, Trish.
I am a 10th degree Grandmaster Ninja, and you have done very well in your preliminary training. I know that you may be a trifle angry with me, but you are a very worthy man and a totally giving person. But you were in trouble, so I had to get you away from the MI8 agents. It was your attraction to me that sped you along and saved you, and your desires shall not go unfulfilled. But first, let us begin some training in the sense of smell.
Well, I'll be a flabbergasted energy pattern of in and out waves, but I thought something was more than a little bit smelling like a rat in the state of Denmark. Although your perfume is enchanting and enticing.
Sorry, how was the pig pen?
Smelly, even with my mere human 10,000 or so odor detectors.
Well, animals do have about 10 times that many, and I'll teach you how to stretch your nose and smell like a pig.
This is not a good time for jokes, my dearest, but it is true that I am very curious about everything. I mean about thing. For all is one that is made of one thing, energy.
Quite right. That is the secret. You just need some of our refresheners that will aid your phenomenal life. We have new car smell, the smell of danger, the smelling of the roses, and many more hitherto unknown delights of Numina.
You're in one of our major ninja centers. You see no one else here since they are mostly off on missions of the gravest danger to the world, of which I will soon inform you. The rest of them can only be seen if they wish to be.
The Ninja Empire is a response to their grave threat. We operate outside of all authority, as do they. We've left them there, for we know who they are, and we have members therein as well. It was their scent that gave them away as replacements. There is an evil conspiracy operating worldwide that is so secret that it doesn't even have a name. They have already substituted 3 near identicals in the US Senate and 2 in the British Parliament. Those trained in the martial arts and mental discipline have reached great depths of self, spirit, beauty, courage, wisdom, and dependability. And that is a rare combination. S2. Why ninjas?
And of course their stealth methods are quite necessary.
Indeed, and as for you, it's not often that we receive someone of your caliber, Michael. It's a great pleasure to have you join us with your depth of commitment to truth, beauty, purity, and love.
I'm just a regular guy trying to help.
No, on the contrary.
He noted some sayings on a wall of his scented room. Heaven's patron of arts, grace, and license left us sweet-smelling plants with flowered scents and aromas redolent fluorescence in flush and prime of days reminiscent. Spring kisses the earth, leaving flowers there, like those whose perfume first scented virgin air, as again the fragrant glen in heaven's prayer hails earth's anniversary with flowers fair. Pleasant-smelling scents lift your heart and mind. Essence of lotus, rose, amber, jasmine, night queen, myrtle, saffron, and sandalwood stimulate the inner spirit sublime. And on another wall, some darker thoughts. The tuberose is a dangerous pleasure, even when taken in but small measure. Its exquisite scent has such great power that it can wither you within the hour. If nightshade you drink, you'll become as so and can see the ghost shades and dark shadows of those who came before our humankind, those whose spirit worlds overlap the mind. And finally, an inner-worldly saying on another wall titled, Flowers I glimpsed in dreams, choral bells, rung by bees and hummingbirds, a melody of tones without the words, and airy sprays of frothy baby's breath, gurgling with all that's much too sweet to purge, and sweet spikes of aromatic lavender, already potpourri from heaven's splendor, and all around, the flora symbolica to soft drowse the spirit into slumber.
Thank you for the teachings. Stench and stink are reserved for smells that are foul, strong, and pervasive, although stink implies a sharper sensation, while stench refers to a more sickening one, the stink of sweaty gym clothes, the stench of a rotting carcass. Indeed, fragrances are among the infinite variations of energy in nature. Energy may be the one thing but it has many pleasant faces. But then there were the pigs, which of course attractive to each other in their own way. Yes, fragrances can take you back in an instant to their source in a remembrance from the past. Fragrance and perfume are both associated with flowers, but fragrance is more delicate. A perfume may be so rich and strong that it is repulsive or overpowering. Of the lilac it is said, "Love's first emotion rose from the lilac, for it blooms when nature is first aroused. It is love's youngest dream to us come back, where it will ne'er again remain unspoused."
I now believe in Santa Claus. I chose a lilac fragrance from my quarters. It reminds me of my early youth in England with Molly Maguire under the fragrant bush. A scent is usually delicate and pleasing, as I try to be, with an emphasis on the source rather than on an olfactory impression such as the scent of balsam associated with Christmas. The 5 S's. What about the scent of a woman like you?
An aroma is a pleasing and distinctive odor that is usually penetrating or pervasive, like the aroma of fresh ground coffee, while bouquet refers to a delicate aroma, such as that of a fine wine. Here, have a glass. Don't forget to swirl, sniff, sip, swallow, or spit if you are just wine sampling.
Good explanation and joke. I've done aromatherapy.
An odor may be either pleasant or unpleasant, but it suggests a smell that is clearly recognizable and can usually be traced to a single source, like the pungent odor of onions, which, by the way, should be planted with potatoes since their eyes will water and nourish the crops.
Ha! What about odors, the British spelling that Austin likes over the American odors, which somehow has an unpleasant connotation to it? That.
You can say that again. Good. Everyone appreciates the fragrance of fresh-cut flowers, but the stench from the paper mill across town is usually unwelcome. Both have a distinctive smell, which is the most general of these words for what is perceived through the nose. But there is a big difference between a pleasant smell and a foul one. The inverse also applies. Yes, but I'm attracted to you too.
So you gave me roses to enjoy the pleasure of...
Smells alert the ninja in the dark even as much as sound, the subcategories being aroma, fragrance, scent, perfume, redolence, bouquet, stench, fetor, stink, reek, and whiff. This is only the beginning. Your journey of protecting the toe and learning more about it will be a strenuous one, and the more we can prepare you, the better. You already have great insight into the beauty and unity of all things, from the One. Your potential is as boundless as your imagination.
It is my dream to become one.
Come hither.